Hello there, and welcome to Thank You Five, a weekly show hosted by Straw Dog Theater Company, where we bring together theater artists from around the globe into a conversation about live theater in a digital world with a spirit of gratitude and innovation. My name is Michael Reyes. I am Straw Dog. I am also the current president of the board of directors, and I will be your host slash MC slash general guide for this evening, with a panel of lovely folks that we've invited to join. Okay, to join us, which we will introduce you to now. So, Katie.
Hi.
Hang on, I can see that audio is coming through and it's going live, but I cannot hear anything.
Oh,
This is bizarre.
since I'm still on screen, we're pausing for technical difficulties.
I can see
Technical
it's happening, but I
opportunities.
can't hear you unless I watch it on the replay. Hang on just a sec. Fun times.
Have a cocktail here. Hmm. Right, juice.
Movie. Hello. Why, this is problematic. There it is. Whoa. No. Can you hear me?
Twice.
Oh.
We're testing the microphone. We're testing the microphone for.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, I can hear all y'all. I can hear you, Kyle. The answer to the question that we're about to pose is not this. So just keep that in mind. Actually, maybe this is exactly the answer to that question, isn't it?
What is?
Well, our first question of the night, like what's happening now?
Yeah. This is theater.
It's
certainly dramatic.
Okay,
it is very dramatic.
And conflict.
What's going to happen?
We did say that we wanted some conflict.
We have
Problem solving in real time.
All right.
An obstacle.
I have no idea what's happening, but I'm hearing myself in echo, which is fine. You guys keep talking. We'll make this work. Go, Michael. I don't know where you left off, but
we were doing introductions to our lovely panel, starting with Katie.
Perfect.
I am Katie Moorehead, and I am a technician and performer and choreographer in the Triangle area of North Carolina. And my day job or my main gig is I work for a public high school as the theater manager. And so I maintain our theater space for rentals and things. But then I also co-teach all of our technical theater classes and oversee all of our main stage productions with our technical elements. And because I'm nutty, I also choreograph most of our shows because, that's
amazing.
Public education.
So you're like a quintuple threat of some sort or something like that.
Some people say I might just not want to relinquish I will say, as a set designer, being a choreographer and a set designer is like a whole magical thing that I just enjoy. So, but it's fun. I get to do lots of different crazy things and get kids excited about lots of different crazy things. So
that's
it
amazing.
All works out in the end.
The cross contamination of like theater artist jobs in you. We'll make that our next topic. Before we move on though, I forgot to mention, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can head over to strawdog.org/thankyou5 to join the chat, ask questions, and more importantly, vote on questions that we pose here so that we know which questions you want us to ask our panelists. And speaking of panelists, let's now move on to Schy.
Awesome. I'm trying to catch up with Katie, and because she's got makeup, hair, and costume, yet yet in your future, and there's always PR. No, I'm sorry. I come from originally the Midwest-ish, not as Midwest-ish as Chicago, but I was in this area and very involved in theater going up through high school, and then joined a theater company, international in scope. So got to travel the world for about 15 years and living out of a van for 10 months out of each year. You get to, we did a lot of school performances and hospitals and churches and all different kinds of performing in repertoire where the theme was given to us and then we would choose from our plays. So they were all original pieces to help challenge people to think. So it was very engaging, and the use of the imagination was required by our audiences because we didn't have room in the van to carry anything around. So we had a couple of costumes, a couple of shirts we turned inside out, and look, it's a new shirt. And then ended up in Los Angeles working in the, as you do in LA, the film industry or TV industry, which took me then up to Seattle because, I met a cute girl and she was from Seattle. So I ended up here in the Pacific Northwest, and now I'm involved specifically in more corporate video production, but I've also got a long-term project of a galloping gourmet with Graham Kerr, a documentary about one of the original TV celebrity chefs from the early 60s. Ta-da!
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Trust me.
That's fantastic. When I was in college, we hosted the National Theatre for production of the Scottish play, and all they had was a tarp and a couple of gobos, and one or two costumes, which is very, very interesting. But I hear you on like the use of imagination. Close, I was also like 20, so I was like completely wide-eyed. Okay.
Which we would often, I would introduce the audience that this is what we're doing, is using your imagination. Consequently, we may be working with a limited budget. And then how much laughter I got from that response was, oh, okay, that's who we're working with in there.
That was your benchmark. Awesome. Okay. Great. Wyatt.
Hey, I'm Wyatt Hamilton. I'm a teacher in North Little Rock, Arkansas, a theater teacher. This is my 10th year teaching, going into that. I do theater 1 through 4. So 1 is its own separate class, and then 2, 3, 4 stacked. I'm also teaching forensics 1, which is competitive speech, which is usually disappointing to hear on that first day, the kind of groans from the kids, because they'll tend to go, it's not blood splatters. So that's kind of fun. I direct the musical. I don't do the choreography or the makeup or anything, thankfully, because that would be horrible. But I have been one of those kind of army of one teachers. I started my career in Texarkana, Arkansas, and then moved to Little Rock. Before that, I was acting. I was in Louisville, Kentucky. I was working for Stage One. A lot of my professional work was children's theater. I don't know if like I never grew up or if I just appreciate those audiences more. But it's something I enjoy. And currently I'm working on the 24-hour plays Little Rock. It's the first time the 24-hour plays has ever been in Little Rock, so it's this inaugural event for us. And so totally not acting, not directing, so I'm wearing a producer's hat, and that's different. I mean, it's one thing to produce kids in high school plays, but yeah, the trying to be an adult in an adult world, it's a weird mix. But then once that ends and going into our fall musical is Frozen. Our school won this contest. It was the United States of Frozen contest that was presented by MTI and Disney. And I wrote some essays and got Frozen. So we'll be the only producing entity for it, or the first producing entity in Little Rock or in Arkansas of Frozen, which is kind of a weird, strange thing because I was never a Disney person, and now I kind of have to be.
Was this on like? Did this make like the morning talk shows like Good Morning America or something like that? Because I feel like I've heard about this.
Oh, I'm sure you did, man. It was in Broadway World. It was in Playbill, and so they've done lots of announcements. There was a YouTube video that we made. You know, you get your kids singing, and we all sang the same songs, and they were mixed in with the touring company, and so that was kind of a cool event for the kids to kind of bring. So that's fun. But yeah, like I immediately, as soon as we won, I was like, press releases, and to get that stuff out there. And I imagine that every school in every state did the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure you've heard about it. So it started last August. Well, I guess it started last June. The deadline was last August, and now it's rolling around. So
awesome.
it'll be interesting.
Awesome. I feel like you've given us a hint of the bright side of the business of show business. So that's great.
Oh, yeah, we're not making money. I'll tell you that.
Well,
business.
Sorry, not for profit business. Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, show good times. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And then last but not least, Kyle Hammond.
Hi, I'm Kyle. This is going to be awkward. I'm hearing myself double, so it's really annoying and hard to talk. But I'm Kyle. I'm putting the show together, and I'm happy to have you all here. I'm excited about this conversation about what is theater. How's that?
Awesome. Since I only hear one of me, I will just also say Kyle is a ensemble member of Straw Dog Theater Company. Kyle is the brainchild behind Thank You Five. He is, the driving force behind it all. He's the wrangler of.
So wait, I am the brainchild from Thank You Five? Is that what you said? Just
something like that. Something like that. Okay, so we will begin tonight, as we always do, with our central question, our very, question that we love to pose to different groups of people coming together, which is, what is theater? It's a very good question that we've been pondering since the pandemic, and boy, have we gotten some amazing answers. And we're going to start tonight with Schy.
We are going to start with Schy. Well, the drama of not being able to respond quickly enough. That's part of theater. No, I guess it's a collaborative experience, and you've got actors and you've got an audience, and without an audience, I don't think there's it rings of that. If the tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? I guess it does, but nobody's there to hear it. So there's a participation, and it that we collectively gather together. Sometimes it doesn't need to be a building, and I think that's the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. Theater is not restricted to location or physical building. It's people. So how do we interact with one another? That's a big broad umbrella that I'll stop rambling.
Well, I mean, I love that you brought that up, because I am recalling a moment, and let's call it the boy, that's so long ago, but like the 80s, 80s and early 90s, where there was a conversation around like audiences aren't educated anymore. Audiences don't they don't know theater like they used to in the past. Audiences don't and this was somewhat in reference to the AIDS epidemic, because we've had lost so many audience members. And I wonder if what do we think about that? I mean, is it just, am I just reacting to something that I heard, that audiences these in today, and the reason maybe that we're sort of, some of us are struggling to find audiences are because the interest is a little low, because audiences aren't I'm going to use a word that I don't mean it in the negative sense, but maybe ignorant of the theater, or whatever that means.
I think people want to gather, and people want to feel connected, but I've heard the term thaw, or we're coming out of the freeze. And as we discussed earlier, how the world got flat in 2020, and we all became a unified, I think it flattened the world in intellect, education, economy, in a lot of ways that we were not prepared for. But the thing I've seen in my anthropological, digging is people have always needed each other. Not everybody, because there's introverts and extroverts, and we all have a little mix of all of that. But I think so. How do we gather? I think that's the question now. Whether we do it digitally, do we still gather? I mean, we had a 4th of July event and there were hundreds, okay, probably a couple thousand of people that gathered just across the way from where I live. And they got a free fireworks show out of the deal, but they were really happy to be together. And the marketplace down in downtown, I live up here in the Pacific Northwest. Anytime the sun shines, people are happy to get outside. So that was a huge market event of farmers market in our little town of Edmonds, Washington, and that people want to be together. So I think the theater of it is up to us to what is our job to be the entertainment for people that want to gather.
That's yeah, awesome. Wyatt, let's bring you in to have your perspective on what is theater.
Yeah, what is theater? I do like the idea of community, and I think that's important. It's storytelling and it's passing that on. Now I'm kind of fascinated by the question of like, do we need theater because we have football? I mean, not that I'm a football guy and I don't care, but what's the thing? It's like sports is theater for stupid people. And I don't want to, just say people are stupid. They don't like theater, but I like the idea of
we're gonna get letters about that.
and they're not. But I mean, I like the idea of ignorant. You like, because and that doesn't mean stupid, they just don't know. And especially with the pandemic, I mean, what came up? It's TikTok. I mean, like TikTok exploded and took over every other social media. You saw the fall of Twitter. And so we like the 7-second reel. Like you look at the algorithm and what they push. And so as entertainment, does it need to be 2 hours long anymore? Do we have to go to a place? And I hope the answer is always yes. I would like that because I do like the idea of getting together with your friends. I never got into theater to make money. Like, what are you talking about? Really a business. It's a bunch of us hanging out and telling stories and making each other laugh. And so I do think there's a place for it, but I also do worry about, I don't know, I mean, like the dinner theater is dying, kind of. I mean, is it? Like, I think about the local dinner theater here, and the audiences are dwindling, the quality is dwindling, at least in the experience. The shows may be equally as great, but so that audience is dwindling. What's going to happen when, I don't know, the 15-year-olds that we teach have $30 in their pocket? What are they going to spend it on? Will they come see a show, or will they just pay for their Netflix? So I don't know. I like theater and I want it to stay around. I'm curious what the fate is. I kind of feel like we're on an edge.
Interesting. Katie, let's bring you into this.
I kind of echo that like for me, theater has a lot to do with community and both the community that comes in, but also like the importance of like collaborating with other artists and what that does to push us to become better artists. I have a director that I love to work with, mostly because she comes up with these crazy harebrained ideas, and it makes me as a technician be like, sure, we can do that. And then I have to problem solve and, like I try different things out, and it pushes me to be a better artist. And that's like part of it, but also like we're saying, that community of coming together in space. We did one virtual show when we weren't allowed to have theater. Like we were at a point when sports were allowed to have spectators, but they hadn't cleared the theater for having real audience members. And we did that virtual show, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I mean, my mom was watching it and like typing in the chat, and she lives several states away, so it was fun for her to be able to be there. But man, was that the weirdest experience ever, to have these kids on stage and they were dancing their hearts out and they like hit that last final pose. And then it's like the three of us are in there who are filming it being like, you did great, because it's just crickets, and that was really hard for them. And I think we also like the being in high school, like it's not just about the kids who are in the production, both our technicians. I mean, the families that are involved, I mean, our families give up a lot of time with us when we're doing shows. And I mean, I grew up in a theater family where my parents were on stage or backstage, and I grew up, sitting right. My dad is a French horn player and would play in pits. And so I would sit in the front row right in front of where he was playing so he could keep an eye on me. Or my brother was doing lights and I was sitting right outside of the lighting booth, or, whatever. And so I think family being a big part of it, like that community of like everybody coming in. So I appreciate that digital like allows us to reach further. I felt like I didn't even know the parents of the kids who I work with anymore, because we were so distant from each other that I could walk by them in the grocery store and not even realize that their kid had spent, the better half of a month with me, like working on a show. So yeah, I think there are definitely aspects of our virtual things that are great in connecting us, as like we're all across the country in different time zones right now talking to each other, which is epic and cool. But I feel like I miss some of the ephemeral likeness of theater when we are like kind of in this world of, does it have to be permanent and does it have to live on for forever and ever? There's pluses and minuses to everything though.
I mean,
detail some of the word ephemeral. Detail some of that for me. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, go right ahead. Do it. Yeah.
I'm just curious about the
it's
specifics of
that
ephemeral.
It's there and then it's gone. It's that whole idea of like the people who are in the room experienced it, and then we tear down the set and that show is gone. You might have costume pieces that are left over or props that find their way into another show. And so you have like the memory of that, but it's not this idea of like we have to record everything. And I just spent we did a musical where we had the right to be able to do a digital copy, which was kind of cool that we could give that to the kids, but also a lot of work to make a digital copy of something that was really designed to be, you're sitting in the room and you're enjoying it.
It's a skill, isn't it? Like, capturing it. I'm my very first summer stock, very first time I was in summer stock, we did Evita, and the one of the kids happened to be the daughter of one of the PR people who made a recording of the show. And during Don't Cry for Me Argentina, the camera zoomed in on her daughter for the entire number. Like that's not, I don't think that's an accurate representation of what's going on up here. So perhaps the videographer at that point did not have quite the skill to capture all of that.
And it's nuts. It's been stuff that we've been investing in for our theater department is how do we record the show and still get the feel of the show and not be like editing and making it a movie version of it. I mean, it's always going to be a stage production, so not quite a movie, but it's a weird balance to try and hit.
It is. Okay, so speaking of video, we happen to have something of a video expert who's our final panelist here, Kyle.
Well, I was going to push back a little bit. I'm going to struggle to not hear myself. But the ephemeral part, and part of that is that I would argue that a lot of our digital recordings are just as ephemeral as if you were in the room and you walked away and never saw it again. Because I have thousands of photos that I have taken and never looked at again. So it's just as ephemeral now when we've got it and we're like, here's the DVD. It's going to sit on my shelf. I'm never going to watch it again. So that part is there. There's just a mindset of people that are like, well, now it's digitized and it's recorded. It will never change. Or it will. Just do it again. It's going to be different the next time. Record that one too. So it's all part of that thing. So that's my pushback on ephemeral. But also I was going to say venue and being in a space. I was reading an article making the waves all over Facebook. What theater needs now? What kind of theater do we need? One of the conversations I was having with my wife was, it's not a space. It's not a venue. It's just like I grew up in the church, and people say it's not about the building. It's about the people in the church. Similarly, theater is not the four walls where you perform. Comes in handy. It's always nice to have a space. But it's the people that are telling that story. That is theater. It's not. This article talks about like don't just become a performance space, but be community engagement. Like be a community. That's what we need from theater. So that's my jumping in. That's what I think about what is theater.
I love all of that, Kyle. My personal bias on all of that, and yes, I did use the word bias, but is that I like lighting designers, I like set designers, I like costume designers, I like all those kinds. So, when someone, and I understand that, having done it myself, that outdoor theater, as a for instance, can be a powerful experience. But at some point, you're just screaming to be heard because of traffic noise, or because of you have no walls, so there's no audio sort of like capability around all of that. One of the things that I'm also hearing too in our conversation here is that are we back when I was in theater school, when we just switched over to talkies. It was the first thing you heard was like, there are only three things you need for theater. You need an audience, you need a piece, and you need an actor. You don't necessarily need a director, you don't necessarily need all these other, but you definitely need all those three things. And so are we thinking? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on, like, first of all, am I wrong about that? Did I get bad teaching? Is it
I think in the style of that era, again, I heard this quote was, content is king. And then somebody pushed back and said, oh no, content is the honey that draws the audience. And then I thought about that, and I realized the person that created that phrase, content is king, was the film director. Of course they wanted to prioritize their product to you, right? So that kind of flipped the script. I'm really enjoying going 180 on this. And to your question, I'm going to say context. And again, was mentioned earlier, story is where we start, and you're even in your three items. So you need an audience, and you need somebody to do a thing, and then you need something that everybody's collectively doing. And I'm on the kind of my rant right now is let the story be the story in the way it's presented. Stop trying to shove it into something else. Katie mentioned, well, even you mentioned, Michael, we got this one person recording it, and then it zoomed in on the daughter. Well, of course they did. It's a home video. It's not Apple spends $72,000 a production minute. Now, if you want that kind of production quality, you might have to raise some more money before you do your next community theater. But use it for what it is. It's a spy cam in the back of the hall, or better yet, let the book be the book. Let the movie be its own experience. Let the play be its own experience. And I think that's where I'm going to get on my soapbox here and say, let's not try to be something we're not, but to the ephemeral point, create and find and be that magic moment for the audience, because that's what they're there to be. And that's our job, is to give them a moment. Sorry, I'm ranting.
And participate, like, like the audience, we want the audience to be a part of the experience. I mean, as an actor, or as a, what is why write the thing? Why perform the thing, unless you're going to perform it for someone, because that's the third crucial element. Not to soapbox myself because I'm supposed to be hosting this, but what are all y'all's perspectives? Let's talk about, like, I feel like we're moving into a structure of theater. I don't know, what is the components of theater, like what is theater from a, we've talked a little bit, like, sort of
Future. I
esoterically
think
about
it's
it.
the future. The question is becoming the future, since
Yeah.
we're not in it for the money, apparently.
No.
And I think it's important. I get excited. You mentioned letting the audience be a part of it. Have you guys seen Every Brilliant Thing? Read Every Brilliant Thing? It's this play. It's William McNamara. Yes, it's English. But it's about a guy who he goes from this. It's a one-man show or one-person show. It says specifically anyone can play the main character, and it's just straight addressed to the audience. But at the beginning of the show, what the actor does is they come out and they hand out little pieces of paper, and it could be post-it notes, it could be bubblegum wrappers, it could be wallpaper, it's whatever, and there'll be a number that's kind of scrawled on it, and then a word or a phrase. And they're walking through the audience and they're handing these out, and they're very congenial, and it's just like, welcome to my living room. I saw it at the Arkansas Rep, and like the design was amazing because the stage was blank, it was nothing, and the set was the audience because we were all sitting in like different chairs, and like some are less comfortable, we had big cushions, we had ottomans out, like, I mean, there was side tables and lamps, and you had your glass of wine, and you're sitting in your living room that is this set while this guy walks around. And the whole thing is, it's a list. He's creating a list of every wonderful, beautiful thing, for a reason that I won't explain. You should read it. I don't want to steal anything from you, but spoiler. But no spoilers. But what happens in the show, he'll start talking, and then he'll go number one. And if you have the number one card, you read off the thing that he says, and then he gets all the way up to 1 million, and if we skip a lot of numbers. But there's just all these neat, wonderful, beautiful, interactive moments. And I was fortunate enough, at the Rep, they're giving away free tickets for kid shows. And so I got some matinee tickets, and it was a small house. It was maybe 80 seats. And they said, bring 40 kids and we'll have another school bring 40 kids. Well, the other school didn't show up. And so it was just my kids watching this show in a half-filled theater. That's not a theater, it's a living room. And then the talk back, and then to listen to their conversations at the end. And it was like, oh crap, you got them. Like, that was what was exciting. It's like, oh, we just made lifelong theater fans, like, today. Woohoo, and I think that's the thing. How do you get that interaction? Like, I'm curious, like, thinking about the future with Chat GPT, and you start looking at virtual reality, and it's like, I almost hope that, like, it gets to the point where I can just like put in the cartridge that's Star Wars, and I could go, yes, I want to play Han Solo, and I want, I don't know, Zach Galifianakis to be Chewbacca, and we're going to go do a thing, and then boom, you're in that world. And that sort of interaction, I think we're kind of heading to now. Is that theater, or is that just crazy?
Yeah.
But I mean, can you imagine, like, 100 years ago, they can't imagine what we have now. So wouldn't that be kind of neat? I do think interaction is hugely important.
Participation is what I'm also hearing you say.
Yeah.
And permissions. So giving the audience permissions to participate and believe in themselves to participate, that they can participate.
Well, because they already have with these things, right? Like, I'm participating, I'm making choices. Like, now granted, it's all, I don't know, choose your own adventure, really, because it's all programmed in with whatever game or thing that I'm watching. But I can like it and change my algorithm and get something else like it, and suddenly I'm participating in my own entertainment in that way. And I think theater does need to find those moments where we can get the audience in there. I don't want it to be gimmicky per se, but there's got to be something, right? So it's exciting.
Yeah, Katie, what do you think about what we've been talking about so far?
Well, I agree that like there's that aspect of the allowing us to have reaction into things, and I love that you talk about like theater for kids. Last year we did a musical that was aimed towards more kids, and we were kind of worried that the high school age wasn't going to buy into it. But we also, because we were coming out of the pandemic, it was the very first production we were doing for an audience. We extended free tickets to all of our elementary age kids in our district to encourage them to come and see the show, which was so much fun because it looked like we had nobody in the audience until intermission when you saw all these little bodies get out and start running around, which was so much fun, right? You're like, but like kids are great. And I think it actually helps the adults or the older people in the audience, even like the teenagers, because they don't have that like restriction that they put on themselves to that they're not allowed to laugh and they're not allowed to react. So like something happens and they all like gasp and all of the adults are like, oh, we can make noises and but also it was so much fun for the actors because we kept like, you try and warn the kids who are just like, be aware that things that you might not find funny as a 16-year-old, like a 7-year-old is going to think is the funniest thing in the whole entire world.
Yeah.
And like just know that you might get caught off guard by what like somebody else might find hysterical. And so it was so much fun to talk to the teenagers afterwards to be like we didn't expect to have to hold for laughter at this moment because all these kids that were in the audience just thought that was just the most hilarious thing in the world. And then like kind of on the flip side, this year we did a musical. We did Mean Girls, and which is not for young audiences. We actually
it's corn. I love this sexy song. It's the best.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, all the sexy weirdness. It's so dumb. I love it.
It was so much fun to do. But the same thing where there were jokes that all the adults, all the parents caught that high schoolers like didn't catch at all. And so it was just really funny to hear where the laughter comes in or where the reaction comes in. And I think that's such a valuable thing as actors too, for us to keep us on our toes almost, because we have one student who has like very ingrained natural comedic timing and does things that like as the adults who are involved, we're just like, go for it. And the first night he did this one thing and the audience just lost it. And we were like, okay, well, don't get used to it because next audience is a completely different group of people. You never know. Like, don't anticipate that that's going to get the same reaction. I mean, it did every night because it was hilarious. But but it's that kind of I don't know, opening it up, allowing people to react and be part of the emotion of the show. I like remember that a character said something. I just remember a teenager in the back going, "Oh no, they didn't." And you're like, yes, have emotional connections with this. Like that's kind of the point. We want you to feel something when we're doing it.
Yeah. So. I love all of that, but like I personally am always like, whoa, I missed something now because if someone was talking, I'm like, what? Can we rewind? Oh no, we can't. It's live.
Yes, to a point, like not disruptive, but like have fun with it.
What was the kids show? It was Mean Girls.
We did James and the Giant Peach.
Okay, cool.
Which has really fun music, and when you're coming back after a pandemic, and it's a much shorter musical, which was but also like it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun on a lot of levels, and we were really glad that we had kids who bought into doing this kind of silly half the cast are bugs show, and it was fun from a tech standpoint. It was a lot of fun to create those things, so it offered a lot of fun challenges, but but yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying about doing theater for young audiences, because I think it's such a valuable place. And honestly, like, if we get them when they're young, lifelong theater people.
Well, and that's what I was 10 when I started doing it. I'm sorry.
I'm still riffing off of Michael's comment, and I'm feeling to encourage imagination is our future. I think that is our responsibility now, because we have been so commercialized, desensitized, and also to the point of culture. We don't have the cultural differentiations. And even you said, I didn't know how to react. And the different age groups in the audiences, oh, well, we're supposed to be this. And again, from Kyle's point of view, I come from Presbyterian, frozen chosen is a phrase. So I get that audience expectation of being in a certain way. So I think, to my own calling in this, Michael, is how am I to help others empower, to Katie's point, to give them permission to have imagination, not and irrelevant to their culture of whatever they're being isolated into to this point. So there's a question about theater.
Well, I was going to say also what that whole conversation brought up to me is that there's it depends kind of thing. Of like there are choices, there are choices. So it depends on who's your audience. It depends on like who's going to react a certain way, at what age, and then there's things that you just don't know, because there's so many variables, and there's so many who knows what somebody's going to think funny, or somebody's going to think it's interesting, or I would rather read the book than watch the film, or whatever. Like it's just there's so many options, and then there's things that are universal that just like everybody knows. And so the trick is figuring out which one's which. Like and the point is just continue to move forward and figure it out. That's my idea of what is theater. We're figuring it out.
Well, is theater always going to be live? Is that an essential component?
Well, if it's not theater, it's television, or it's movies, or it's social media. I mean, like, otherwise we would call Facebook Theater Book, or whatever, or YouTube Theater Tube, right? I think it does have to be a place that you go to, a thing that you have to leave the home, unless you're an impresario and you can just have them do it in your living room. But like, I don't know, that's not me. So yeah, I think that is the definition of theater, is as it is what it is, the experience of the actors and the audience. Because I do agree, you need a story, I don't think they lied to you. You need a story, you need an audience, you need an actor. I mean, that's what you need. If you don't have the audience, it's just rehearsal. If you don't have a story,
or a Thursday night in non-equity theater in Chicago. But
oh my God, I did Blood Knot by Athol Fugard for the Arkansas Shakespeare Festival a million years ago, and I don't know if you know the show. It's like 3 hours long. It's two guys, and it's just talking. And there would be nights where no one would show up. It'd just be me and my buddy Delance and the director, and it's like, you guys want to rehearse? No. Why? Good. Yeah, we paid rights for this. How much like like, what are we doing? This is bad theater. So yeah, I don't know. What was the thing? There was someone say something, because there was a brilliant thing that we skipped over, or not. We didn't skip over. I forgot, because it was a wonderful moment.
Well, I mean, we've had some interesting conversations in this, the context of this, Thank You Five discussion about, is theater really live? Is it really real? Does it, because one of the questions that we have come to, and I should mention, we're a little after time. Are you guys okay? Okay, great. One of the questions that was brought up to us was about digital, and what does digital mean for theater? And the specific question was, how can digital technology be used to transition an audience into and out of a show? I mean, so in the context of our conversation today, I'm wondering, is that what's the role of digital? If we're saying that, theater is essentially, meaning an essential component of theater is that it's a live experience. Like at some point, I'm hoping that we get scent designers that can help us, like, feel, scent and humidity and, that kind of thing. That's just my own weird
it was
definition of what live theater should be.
That's what the Feelies in 1984.
That's what I
right?
was just. Yeah, I was thinking about the bearskin rug that he could feel. Yeah.
They
Schy, you had something to.
they tried smell-o-vision or in theaters,
Yeah.
but
No, I remember. Yeah, the
it,
scratch
it
and sniff kind of. Yeah.
it was not a pleasant. No, they pumped it in, but they couldn't evacuate the cattle stampede after they got. Yeah, it was pretty horrible.
Oh. So
So
smell on smell on smell on smell
I
on.
again, Graham Kerr talked about being sensual. I thought, well, I come from the Midwest, and I thought, well, he's thinking sexual,
Oh,
and I'm going,
Graham.
I know. But he said, no, 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 no. He said, the challenge is all of your senses are your up here from the neck up. The challenge is, however, when you're eating something, it's going to, ingest from the neck down. So he said the challenge of cooking something is that it smells good, looks good, sounds good, and it's exciting from the neck up, but doesn't kill you from the neck down. And so that's where the sensual experience of this. For Michael, you and I think you are some of us a similar, era in some ways. I'm feeling like I'm having to unlearn faster than I'm learning, because technology, while it is only a tool, is progressing exponentially, unlike what you and I grew up with in all of the worlds.
Yeah.
So consequently, I've already used ChatGPT. I've used Midjourney as a tool of an iterative creative process, and it's brilliant. So again, I've been an early adopter, and I've got the flat nose to the grindstone to prove it. So I again, I just feel like the new technologies, to the question of how do we, well, here's what I'll throw at it. From a film point of view, does whatever you're putting into the film move the story forward, or does it hinder the audience from being a part of the story and get in the way of the story? That's my litmus test of putting onto the, how does digital tech, how is it used to transition an audience in and out of a show? Does that technology, lighting, audio, wiggle seats? I was in the company that I was with in Los Angeles did theme parks, and they would put seats underneath, speakers underneath the seats to shake that gets you involved in a hurry.
We
I
lost
mean,
Wyatt.
hopefully he'll be back soon, but I'm interested, Katie, kids, digital is an inevitability, right? I mean, it's just like, they don't even know anything different.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think there are
they're the future of
aspects of
theater.
I think that there are aspects of our digital stuff. Like, I think live streaming is going to be something that is going to become more standard. It's just very interesting. So we were a week from our musical opening when school shut down, and I remember instantly going into conversations. MTI had a whole like town hall meeting about what is the next step, what are we going to do now that things are shut down, because there was no such thing as a live streaming license at that time. It wasn't even a thought process that we had. So that was like having these conversations and trying to, like, in the moment, find ways to keep theater going, other than watching like all of the filmed Andrew Lloyd Webber videos that we all gathered for the weekly drop, to feel like we were having theater. And I mean, we did things like, we as a theater department, we would do live views together where we had a chat and we could talk. We were all watching the same show that had been put out on the internet for us, and we would chat and try to like connect with each other. So I think live stream is something that we're going to see more and more of, and we're having more shows that are available for that. And that's one of the things like we're working on right now. We just got new cameras and that we fundraised for because I mean we have like these like dinky little cameras that were never designed for, I mean they were for archival videos and things like that we didn't care if they were blown out and not great, right? So we've been investing in that and getting like a switchboard where we can in real time be either moving the cameras but keeping it in like the perspective of an audience member instead of afterwards spending a month and a half like splicing together and trying to make it perfect and lining up audio, which is not, as a theater person, anything that I really ever trained for or thought I was going to need. But like, so finding ways to keep it like feel like the feel of live theater. I personally am not like I think that I'm not a personality who can watch I don't really enjoy virtual theater as much. I can't even watch a TV show without doing something else. So I just don't get engrossed in it the same way as when I'm in the space. I think that like the ambient noise of people around me, like in a way, almost like helps me feel engrossed in the experience, different than if I'm at home in like my comfies watching it on a TV. But I also think it's awesome that my parents don't have to drive a 12-hour drive to come down to North Carolina to see opening night of a production when they can, you know, they can log on and support. And I think there are ways that we've found to do that while we're still paying the artists who we are getting material from, which is also important to make sure we're being respectful of that. So I think that for me is how digital theater will keep going. And I also think it's kind of neat, like as we were putting together the video, we were able to put in pictures of our technicians at the end, so that people who are behind the scenes that don't normally come out on stage at the end, there were ways for us to be able to acknowledge them in a different way, whether it was like action shots of them putting things together or group shots. So I think there are ways that we can use that. And so like before and after shows to have that kind of community and you know, show who's been involved. Like I mean, I know it's TV show, but I love like at the end of Mandalorian when they have the design sketches at the end. Like for me, my little like tech nerd heart is happy watching and knowing that somebody sat there and planned all of that out, and like that, you know, like all of their design work being on display makes me very happy.
Jon Favreau talked to Lucas about when he came on the set of Mandalorian, and Lucas said, "Oh yeah, this is what I was thinking we wanted to do 25 years ago." And here was the secret that Favreau said: we can now create we can now create a film on a TV schedule. And that to me was the secret. And that's where, with, you know, the volume space and the construct of digital. So that's again where digital comes into it, creating this more epic, larger than life thing that is tough to do on a you know, community budget in a small theater. So again, how do we embrace the context with,
You know, I mean, for a future one of these thank you fives, I feel like we need a theater kid, like an actual theater kid. Like, I don't know, Katie, send us one of your kids.
I have plenty of kids who will talk.
Yeah, send us one of your kids. And then we need some scientist that's going to talk to us about like pheromones and like electromagnetic energy and like, you know, that kind of thing. That's so that we can, so like, what is it, like, what is the physicality of actually being, what is the science about being in the room together with someone versus not being in the room together with someone. I don't know. These are ideas for a future time. We'll see. We'll see. Wyatt, uh, you've been away. You're back. Welcome back. Just wanted to give you a chance
Sorry.
to. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Just wanted to give you a chance to jump in on this. Jump back in on this conversation here that we've had about been having around digital and
The
theater
thing
and
I
what is
heard was
theater.
the last thing I heard was the words "wiggle seat" before my computer died because we were. Oh, wiggle seats. I want to talk more. No, it's gone. No, I
Did you
went to go
remember the
see the
brilliant
new.
thing? Yeah. Okay.
No, the new Indiana Jones. Has anyone seen that?
Yes, I have.
So good, right? Like the way it sucked in. Like I felt I stayed awake. It was strange. But like the whole time I'm watching it, I kept going. How much of this is real background? And did they shoot this on the same set as The Mandalorian in the same location? Just because it had that same kind of polished, finished kind of look that Disney has nowadays. And I think that's exciting, and I think that's wonderful. I don't think it all has to be, and then will be blood. It doesn't all have to be Lincoln. It doesn't have to be these dark, people talking at each other in gruff voices. It can be big, loud explosions and neat effects. So I am excited about that. How do you do that in the theater? Like projections? Is there holograms? I don't know. So I don't know how you emulate the wow factor of digital media and bring it into the live theatrical space. Other than wiggle seats,
I think it's imagination, and so that's what I think. The what is the future is that the same way like we're getting kids nowadays to be excited about whatever theater that we are putting together, whatever kind of storytelling. In the future, they'll be able to use the tech because we've trained their imagination to think differently and to try new things and to like how could we do this and tell this story on a shoestring theater budget using the tech that's available. And blah, blah, blah. So that's what I think. Like we are just starting to see the I hate to use the word, but trickle down of like technology that like used to be thousands upon millions of dollars just to record a show. Now everybody can record the show. Great. Can we do it better? Can we like, how do we imagine that better? So that's what I think. What we're on the precipice of it's about the snowball because. Yeah. You weren't trained for video theater, Katie. Neither was I. But we're learning, and so the kids that are kids now that are learning about theater, they're learning about theater with technology that we had no idea was. It didn't exist. Not only did we not know how to use it, it didn't exist. So now like it's a whole new ramp up of how we're gonna put all that together.
Yeah, this is a really good thing though, Kyle, because for I don't know, me, it keeps our neuroplasticity going because we have to learn new things. And I feel like, and I'm sort of being cheeky about it, but like I had a conversation at one point, about why are many theater people, we think, sort of like young at heart, or why, what is that thing? How did that? And I think it's because we play all the time, and I think part of it is because there is a bit of like bootstrapping of like, okay, well,
show must
nobody
go
else is around to do it. Yeah, with it, and we've had we've set some parameters that we didn't have before, in I guess I would say in recent years about like how much we would go into like the show going on, but like we're still imaginative people, we're still creative people, and we're still I don't know, maybe that's what brings us, maybe that's the Kitty.
I think
Yeah,
it's also a willingness to try new things. and and be able to put ourselves out there to know that it might fail the first time, but it's a willingness to try and then try again until we find what works, right? Like we do that as actors, we do that as technicians, and I think that it's a skill set that kids don't necessarily get, or people don't necessarily get in a world where it's like, this is the structure and this is how you have to do it. We live in a world where we are given opportunities to just try, and it's okay to not succeed the first time.
I feel like that is a thing that, Katie, you should shout from the rooftops, because I in my day job I do a lot of strategy work, and in tech companies, in particular, one of the things you hear about a lot is fail fast. And I'm like, when the first time I heard that, I'm like, you mean do theater? Because it's like, this is just, that's the rehearsal process. That's a 4-week rehearsal process. Your first week, you're just like trying the things, and if the things don't work, you've got somebody over here saying, that's not, no, or try, tweak, whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just like
I've had to introduce that exact concept in verbs and nouns to my clients now. The development of a concept that turns into an idea, that turns into a project. And we have, because again, you and I just know this naturally because we've been around it for many years. But I remember 30 years ago in the West End in London, I got to see, you mentioned Evita at the top of the hour. And I realized at that time, the amazing thing, it wasn't the painted sets or the fly space or anything. They were doing rear projection of, and I guess, was that a style that toured? Because it was that a concept? Because it was amazing 30 years ago. Now, today it would be, whatever, so old hat.
so retro.
Yeah, there we go. So how quaint. But to Katie's point, how do we accept that certain people of a certain age they don't know that there's never not been an internet?
Yeah.
And so when I mentioned earlier, I'm feeling like I'm having to unlearn faster than I'm learning. That's giving not only myself permission to let go of hardline and cables and things like that, but also giving permission to whomever I'm in connection with, whether it be my responsibility as entertaining and taking us all on a journey, because that's what you paid your money to do, or sitting back and letting you take me on the journey. So go.
Oh, that must have been a ghost in the machine.
I feel like Wyatt was just about to say something brilliant.
He was.
We were about to have something brilliant from Wyatt, and I think we lost
back to me, Wyatt, please.
Yes, improv that musical. Do it. We're getting close to the half hour, and I know we started, significantly late. Kyle,
we are at the 1 hour mark that we have been broadcasting.
Perfect.
So we're solid.
Awesome. Any final quick thoughts from anybody? This has been a really great conversation. I love doing these. I love having these. But I'm not kidding, Katie. I need your list of children and their parents, I suppose. I guess that's the right thing to do, right?
They're all old enough. I think that I work with high schoolers, so they
perfect, fantastic, love it.
But love it. He's back.
There's a Wyatt sighting.
We were just wrapping up, but like you sound like you had like a brilliant. You were coming in with a hot thought, hot comment.
I don't know if I was. I'm hopeful for the
Fantastic.
future. So that's the big deal there. As far as brilliant, mostly I'm sitting here having technical difficulties and internet issues, and I'm just like, maybe we should just stay in our little black boxes and that, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe the theme for all, or the conclusion around all this is there's room for all of it. There's room for all of it. So, okay, well, I just want to thank everyone for participating today. Thank you to all of our excellent panelists who have been here tonight. Kyle for doing double duty as the generator, the Genesis man, the producer of Thank You Five. We also want to thank Office Hours Global, Edwin Ruiz and Mondo Machine. Thank You Five is made possible by Straw Dog Theater Company ensemble members. Straw Dog is run on a free theater model where our productions are available to anyone and everyone. We can only do this. This is very important, with generous donations from our community. You can find information about donating or becoming a Straw Dog member and helping to continually support our work on our website. And we will see you next week for a conversation with more theater artists. Please submit your questions to us. And if you want to join or have a friend, strawdog.org, Thank You Five page. And again, thank you all for watching, and thank you, panelists. This has been really brilliant. It's the highlight of my week.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.